Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Energetics Money 3.0. It's called 3.0 because this is my third time that I'm doing this specific topic, energetics of money. I think the first one was maybe 3 years ago, September. Maybe it was October. And then a year and a half ago. In the last week or two, I've been thinking what this actual, specific training means for me. And it means a lot for me because I won't be teaching anything around the investment strategies or all that. I'll be sharing with everybody how you can be the magnet to circulate money by understanding money is a spiritual idea. And in order to really embody that wisdom, we must embody that we are spiritual being. So we're gonna be diving into the realm of spirituality. And you might hear a little of the stuff that you might not be expecting. And I decided to do 5 days. I think the first one that I did a couple of years ago, I did 5 days. And then the second one was 3 days. And the last few training has been 2, 3 days. I decided to do 5 days because, it's interesting. I think Tom might be coming soon. When I do 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, it's almost like people ask me, why are you doing this time 5 days? It's like when people ask me that, it almost feels like, people are asking me, why are you choosing to eat steak over seafood tonight? Right? It's just because I kind of leaning into it. But the more I thought about this topic, intuitively, I felt like I wanted to do 5 days for people to be able to take the time to process. Yeah. Because if you do 2 days, 3 days, I do longer each day. But then when you do 5 days, you can actually really dive into the workbook. So you have a workbook. And let me just kind of set the tone of this, what this training is about and the intention behind it. So this is not a training that you come and learn something new about it. This is not a training for you to be inspired even. This is not a training for you to learn anything that you actually don't know. This is a training for you to get the realization that the answer that you're seeking is already inside of you. That's the true education because education means to draw out from within. So everything that I do is not about downloading information and for everybody to follow what I believe or what I know to be true. It is about sharing a perspective for you to exercise your awareness and a perspective and access the answer that's already inside. So a lot of people who have been in my energy knows that I have always resisted the school system. And it's interesting that the platform of school is a different kind of school. The traditional school is geared towards memorization, but the fundamental underlying assumption, the false assumption that I see in traditional school is that we treated children and teenagers as humans who have the cup empty, right? Then we need to feed the information to learn about something from the outside to grow. Yeah, that's the natural tendency to think. And then the entire school system is training us to become an employee. And I'm going to talk about why I'm talking about that in a moment. And when we understand that we are a spiritual being and the essence of who we are is beyond the physical five senses, we come to realize that what we really need is not to acquire information from the outside to grow or to become better, but to remove all the mental construct and false stories and assumptions that we have been acquired along the way, and removing that so that we can tap into our own knowing. Yeah, the capital K knowing. So we're gonna talk a lot about belief and a lot of the things that we do inside of the self-realization soulpreneur that core foundation of what we do is to exercise our belief. And then belief is in the realm of the mental, yeah. And then what belief is what's true for us. So what is true for us is different for everybody, right? Some people who have never been abroad might see the world as a big place. But if you have been traveling different places, you might feel like the world is small, right? Let's talk about energetics of money, right? So if you have been earning a certain amount, that a certain amount has become natural for you, then you became the point of contact to magnetize that. So it's all relative, and the truth for us, the relative truth, changes based on the exposure, how we have been surrounded by the environment, and what we are used to, right? The familiar version of us, that what we feel natural about something becomes true in our life. So there's an absolute truth and a relative truth. Absolute truth is that gravity exists. It's not relative. It's always gonna go down, right? Shanna can walk as she engage in this because gravity exists. She's walking always, right? She's disrupting the normality of how you attend workshops by exercising while she's joining. Yeah. So relative truth is what is true for you internally, right? So do we feel that we're living in an abundant universe? Do we feel that money is difficult to earn? Do we feel that money is just like the breath that circulates to and through us? It's all relative. Yeah. And my goal, one of the goals that I have this week is for me to not only convince you in a positive way, but for you to actually begin grasping the truth of what money really is from an energetic standpoint. And we can grasp that fully when we stepping into who we truly are. Who we truly are is spiritual beings. That's my belief and understanding. And whatever that means for you, I want you to kind of take on based on, where you at in the stage of, awakening, expansion. And what I would love for everybody to do is to pick and choose what resonate with you this week, right? Because, and then I'm not expecting everybody to resonate with what I say 100%, just like I didn't when I study with all different teachers. That's the reason I have different teachers. I'm not in the business of convincing my belief, but I'm in the business of sharing the perspective so you can convince yourself based on the desire that you're seeking. Does that make sense? We don't need to live exactly the same life. We don't need to agree with each other. But what we want to really exercise and create a space here together is for all of us to begin exercising what is the perspective that we're choosing to see everything from, and to begin questioning if that is true for us, if this is what I want it to be true for my life. And belief is just like that, right? You can really change the belief, what's true for us, when you start exercising inside. And we're gonna go through what the how we can do that throughout the week. So I'm gonna share my screen so we can do a little bit of exercise. So this is the school group that we are all in. I think most of us, if not almost all of us, are already in. And every single day, if you're attending live, while we're live, this session one realization post. Of course, Tom already posted. You see here, I don't see him here, but his post is already here. He's always number one. So if you can beat him, that's gonna be interesting. So if you're watching this replay, you can still, do this while you're watching replay. I wanna do this with all together, right? So I said a moment ago that this 5 days is not gonna be a training that I'm gonna inspire you or give a little nugget, right? That's gonna be happening probably because I am in spirit. But the invitation that I have is that I want everybody to participate and express your energy as much as you're able to. Yeah. And what that means is that, let's say Tom is already doing because he knows what we are all about, right? You can express, yeah, but also chime in to commenting on others' comment. And let me tell you why I'm asking everybody to do. Everybody who is circulating a large sum of money in the world are not hiding. Yeah. There's a law of compensation, right? In the reception of money, because if you're here, you're interested in and curious about circulating more money. Yeah. And money is not something that you will be paid by anybody, but it's something that you will be paid through everybody when it comes from a spiritual standpoint. So each and every one of us is a portal through which the exchange of energy, money, circulate to and through us. Yeah. And the initiation of the circulation always begins by the energy of giving. Now, energy of giving is the energy of producing. The energy of producing is the energy of creating. Yeah. So receiving is the reciprocal effect of giving. Yeah. Consuming is the reciprocal receiving, consuming because somebody is giving, you consume, right? Is a reciprocal effect of you producing. Yeah. So if you want to circulate money to expand and move the dynamic of the energetic flow, we first must begin giving. Yeah, that's one of the principles in the Soul Purpose group. The people who are transforming their life in this group are those who are proactively participating. Yeah. And then if you feel the resistance to do so, what we want to ask is what's inside of me that is creating that resistance, right? Because there's a belief in there. Yeah. And I want this space to be very transparent, very um, expressive, and everybody is welcome, and all perspectives are welcome, right? Because I don't come from this place that you need to believe what I believe. People will have a different belief, and that is okay, right? But the only thing that I'm here to challenge everybody is whether that belief that you're holding on to is serving you to create the life that you desire, right? Because the only anchor that I have to be the facilitator for this group and the container is to help all of us expand their life. So what I would like for everybody to do, we're gonna do this together just to kind of anchor this intention. We want to share, if you could share, take a moment. If you don't have the school group open, I want you to open now. Even if you're watching replay, actually pause a little bit and open so we can do this together in time. I would love for everybody to share what you're deeply feeling gratitude. Yeah. Now, this sounds like a basic question, but let me take it a little bit deeper. Why gratitude is important in the circulation of money? Because when you're feeling thankful for, which is the ultimate prayer, yeah, you're already in the energy of completion and already in the energy of being done. You're not needing anything, right? So if you can tap into the energy of gratefulness and gratitude, let me share mine. Since I'm facilitating, I'm not gonna type on the school chat, but let me share mine. I always love doing this live training. Yeah. And then something that I have noticed, maybe the last two events, and then I felt so much today, is that when I play the music, yeah, and when people begin joining, and then I see people's name, I see people's name that I know, I see people's name that I don't know, yeah. When people come in to take this live workshop, I feel super grateful for and deeply in gratitude because it has always been my dream to have a container in the school to help people wake up to what they're here to do and to break all the false stories in their life. Everybody knows that, I've been on my spiritual path since 17, and I was a dancer back then, but I came across different books. And when I was in the bookstore, I knew that what I'm doing, what we're here, everybody together, is what I was meant to do. That's like over 2 decades ago. Yeah. A 17 years old boy knew that this was my awakening mission. Yeah. And it means so much to me that people are resonating with, this spiritual message and the idea of soul-led entrepreneurship. And for people to really stepping into the role of the being the artist of the soul. And when people come in, I see each and every person who entered the Zoom, space as a hero. Yeah, as a hero. And what I want to invite everybody to do is it is about being able to see yourself so, because there is this tendency in the world that a lot of people embrace creativity, embrace abundance, embrace success, whatever that definition of success is. And people cherish for people for creating some accomplishment. And most people don't look at themselves as a part of that pool. Yeah. This comes from Earl Nightingale, right? He was one of the people who started the self-development industry, where there's a strange factor that people think that we should strive for the greatness, and most people exclude themselves to see in that light. And it's very interesting why that is. Like, we can talk about a lot of stuff for others, but when it comes to our own thing, we start sort of feeling a little less than or a little wanting to hide and feeling like, okay, let me work on that a little bit, right? So to enter into that energy of gratitude and gratefulness is one of the keys to actually circulate abundance. Yeah. So if you're still writing, you can. And then throughout the session, if you could use more of this comment instead of the Zoom. I know a lot of people want to sort of communicate via Zoom chat, but then the challenge of the Zoom chat is that people who are watching the recording are not participating. And then if you have any realization or aha moment during this session, I want you to actually use this pose to comment. Okay. I want to talk a lot about something that I felt called to. And I was talking to Yan this morning. I didn't know what I was going to talk about until 10 minutes ago. And I decided, oh, I'm going to talk about this, and this. Last Tuesday, let me back off a little bit. So if anybody who is new to, my energy in this, Celestine Prophecy by James Rusfield was my first book that awakened my journey. Yeah. I was 17. I was living in Tokyo. And right next to that book, there was a book called Conversation with God by Neil Donald Walsh. There you go. Shana is reading and walking and listening at the same time. 17 years old, my first teacher was Neil Donald Walsh. And I was reading his book and waiting for the next one to arrive. Last Tuesday, I had an hour one-on-one session with Neil Donald Walsh. Myself. I'm working with him right now. And 2 decades later, after I started my spiritual path, I decided to work with him directly. And I thought of working with him a couple of years ago, and it didn't happen for whatever reason. And now that I'm in his energy, I exactly know why it's happening right now. Yeah. And I had a one-on-one call. And during the one-on-one call, He picked up his phone and he started to answer the call that he was receiving. Yeah. And then he said, "Oh, okay. I'm gonna let Yuki know what you just told me." And he hung up. And he said that I just received a call from God. That's what he said. Right. And this was after I share what I do and all the things, right? It wasn't at the beginning of the call. And then Neil said, God told me to tell you this. Can you guess what that is? He said, nothing. I have nothing to tell you. And when he told me that, I understood what exactly that meant. It meant that I was on the right track. I'm doing what I'm here to do. I'm aligning the mind with the soul essence. Yeah. There are a lot of people in the online space who are striving for success and accomplishment. And after they experience that wealth and a success, they run into this huge realization and identity crisis that something is missing. And they sort of enter into this sort of emptiness. And some people are, selling or releasing their multi-million dollars business to go to the valley to meditate. There's all kinds of identity crisis that's happening in the online space right now by those who are accomplishing externally. 2 months ago, I did an event called Wholeness, and I actually presented a new definition of success, which is wholeness inside and full expression outside. Yeah. And the money will come around based on how we're expressing. So I have always been somebody who wants to go all in, express, and do things better to be able to sophisticate the artwork, whatever that I have been doing, including, practicing dance or delivering movement. I was always interested in not perfecting from the place of the lack mentality, but perfecting from the place of creating a sophisticated arts. That comes from a lot of Japanese culture because we have that tendency. Yeah. If you can look at sushi, you know how we roll, right? The view and the presentation is important because the intention is embedded in that presentation. Yeah. But at the same time, so the point is that I was always, let's just use the term driven externally. I wanted more. I believe in accomplishment. I believe in greatness. I believe in sharing as much as I'm able to create to the world. But at the same time, I was so aware that it needs to come from within. I was so aware that this is something that even I was telling Neil, because we're talking about being and knowing and experience. Yeah. And even when I was like 10 years old, when I was living in South America, I knew deep inside of me that there was an invisible field, which was a fundamental realm that we came from and that we belong to, that we cannot perceive in a five sensory perception. Yeah. And this is not something that somebody taught me or any information that I read in the book. I simply knew, right? So then that knowing, that connecting back to the whole within, I always knew that I cannot disconnect from that and just go after the achievement or the prize or the rewards that the outside world is going to give me. I knew that I needed to somehow stay connected to the inside, but I didn't know how to do it. Either I was meditating inside to disconnect from the outside or strive to create outside. And when I was striving, I was feeling disconnected from the inside. And I feel like many people live that way still. And I think the entire journey that I have lived the last 2 decades plus after I had this awakening moment has been the path of integration. What do I need to do in order to actually make sense that we're a spiritual being and creating things without living in a survival mode? So what I see in the world today is that there is an interest in growing, the business stuff, and there's interest and curiosity in tapping into the awakening inside of us. And it seems like it's either or, right? Sometimes we focus, sometimes we focus on the outside, and then when we feel exhausted about it, okay, we just gonna kind of meditate and slow down a little bit, right? But for me, the ultimate mode of living is a true integration. And the integration, if we really want to integrate everybody, it needs to begin from within, not from without. Yeah. So the path that I have taken is, what is the actual process to come from and consistently staying inside and to begin producing and creating, playing and having fun in this life and live exactly the way that we're here to live. And let me tell you what that really means. I feel like I can just go for 3 hours day one, everybody. I have a lot of things that I want to share that I'm feeling excited about. One of the main things that I would like to accomplish today is to redefine what authenticity is. Yeah. Let's talk about authenticity, because what is being authentic? Being authentic is to be expressing the truth of what's true for you internally, right? The moment you are not expressing what is true for you, we say that it's inauthentic. Yeah. Does that work? Right? So for me, this is part of the things that we do in the belief accelerator, self-realization. If we are that, the fundamental essence of who we are is soul. The nature of the soul is to consistently and constantly seeking forever expansion. The natural tendency of the soul is a fuller expansion. Yeah. And one of the things that we want to be practicing is to stop seeing soul as a noun, but see soul as a verb. It's moving constantly. It's not a static thing. Yeah, even God is not a noun. It's a verb. It's a process. It's an intelligence that moving to and through us consistently and constantly. Yeah. So if the soul, the nature of the soul is a fuller expansion, it's constantly evolving, it's constantly expanding, it's constantly expressing the greater essence of who we are. So the soul doesn't have any limitation. The mind is limited. So we all know that what we do here is all about awareness. Yeah. What we are doing is all about awareness. Yeah. But awareness is who we are. So if awareness is who we are, what does it mean to expand the awareness? The essence of who we are, soul, awareness, it's just different language and perspective, how we're choosing to label and identify as a concept. Yeah, because soul is a concept that we're naming who we are, is unlimited. There's an infinite possibilities. The moment the soul, let's say, unfold and gifted with the mind and the body, that both are limited. The mind has limitation and the body has limitation. The soul and who we are doesn't. Yeah. When we say expanding our awareness, we are expanding the awareness of the mind, how we can understand things, how we can see things differently, how we can look at from a different perspective. The mind has an ability to look at from all kinds of angle. I'm using words to communicate right now, and then everybody's receiving the information in language. And people are feeling, you are feeling whatever that you're feeling. But the main mode of communication is I'm sharing using words. Words are conception in the mind. Yeah. So as you listen to and hear, there are things that come in from one ear and go out from other ear, but there are things that resonated into your heart. There are things that, a couple of different calls that I have last week or a few weeks ago, people has been telling me that I'm feeling electric. When they speak with me, they feel it electric, right? That's because I'm speaking my truth and it's speaking to your truth, right? So when something deeply resonates with you, it's not because what I'm talking about is anything, but what I'm talking about is already inside of you. That's why we say resonating, right? And then let's say all this information is feeling expansive and then feeling energized. That's because the information contains the truth of who we are. Truth allows us to feel expansive, and what is not true for us gives us a sense of resistance. So, and then sometimes when something is very true for us and expansive, but when it feels out of place because we have been operating in the state of false stories long enough, you know that you need to go there, but there's a fear because identity wants to stay in a familiar place. Yeah. So we want to detect what is happening inside of us, the resonance, but also a little bit of fear because of the belief that we're operating from, not because it doesn't resonate with us, right? So we want to detect the resonance, alignment, and also how the information, the energy is talking to us to evaluate and examine our belief. So the redefinition of authenticity is that living an authentic life for me is to begin crafting my own arts that has been cultivated through the stories that I have lived. And I have lived for a reason to realize that this is what I'm supposed to and being guided to give to the world. In the moment you turn all the pains and the shadows and what people call trauma or the wounds or challenges that we have had in the past, the moment we decide to see that as a guided path for you to become somebody who utilized the entire life stories to touch others, now you're starting your real life because that's what we are here to do. And when we start doing that, and when we start expressing yourself fully without entertaining what others gonna be thinking about you, without entertaining if this is gonna work for to create any accomplishment, because it needs to come from within. You can accomplish a lot of the financial gain or whatever that you were told by somebody, but if that's not incongruent with your alignment and what you're here to express as your voice and the message that you're here to express, it's not going to work spiritually. So the money might be flowing, but you might be in a deep unfulfillment, right? So it needs to come from within. It needs to come from within. And when you start doing that, and when you start expressing yourself without entertaining the lack in the outside, without being worried about if this is going to work, it's going to work because that's what you're here to do, right? We don't change. I'm gonna laugh about what I'm going to say. We don't change our calling based on the market need. Does that make sense? We don't change our mission in life based on what the market is needing. Does that make sense? You can change to meet the market need in order to produce an income, but you can produce an income and you will be miserable by being a millionaire and so unfulfilled inside. So that's why the new definition of success is wholeness inside and expansion and accomplishment outside. But it needs to start from within. So when we step into that and begin expressing yourself with courage, and then when you feel like your message contradict a little bit with the world, that's even better. Because I don't think most people are living the way that I'm directing everybody to live. I have felt so much the incongruency between how I felt inside and how most people are suggesting, let's say, online entrepreneurs to roll. And at the beginning, when I started, I felt like, okay, this is what it takes to create. But then I've been in so many different communities, and then I started to wonder if this is the only way that we can do, right? It's very interesting because a lot of people who are in the Soulpreneur program knows that I don't have too much strategy. I like doing these live events. I do have, some basic trainings, but my strategy is to listen to music and then watch singers on the stage performing. That's my strategy, right? That's all I did this morning. I did a workout and I went for a walk, and then I was gonna read a book at the cafe in the morning, but then the internet wasn't working, so I started to listen to music. And something that the singers do for me, and I'm not saying that we all should go to listen to music right away. That's just how I roll, right? I get so much inspiration because it touches me, right? So when I listen to singers that I love, I can enter into my mission and the spirit of what I'm here to do. And that's the basic thing that I energize before all these trainings. And then once I energize, because I already know what I'm supposed to be talking about in these 5 days, it's not yet up in the conscious awareness what exactly I'm going to talk about. But inside, I have a deep trust that I will be naturally guided to talk about whatever that I need to talk about. And anybody and everybody who is supposed to be here in this room is going to be hearing exactly what they need to be hearing. Then I don't need to have too much plan, no? Because life unfold through the energetics. In the Soul Purpose group, we have been focusing on building and developing soul-led entrepreneurs. Yeah. And the reason that I and we have been diving into that more is because I personally believe that each and every one of us is here to do just that. You don't need to have a huge company. You can have your message, your voice, and your arts that you're meant to touch others and begin learning how to circulate money through it. We don't need to be working for somebody to be able to earn money, especially right now. Like for instance, a lot of people think that breaking through the field of entertainment and being a singer or dancers are hard. Yeah. I know somebody whose name is, I'm forgetting his name, Joseph Vincent. He's a singer, resides in San Diego. If you Google Joseph Vincent in on YouTube, he's a YouTuber who has a fantastic voice. He's making a living through it. He's not really, you know, out on mainstream. Today we have a school group that anybody who can who have and tap into the calling and voice and the mission can begin monetizing and circulating money. Does that make sense? Like we're kind of moving, I mean, we are moving towards into the lifestyle that everything and things are accessible and we can do so much using internet, right? But then the idea that people have is that the stable income needs to be by working. Yeah. That's a belief. And that's the pattern that most people have been operating. It doesn't need to be that way. There's so much potentiality and possibilities in an online space and different ways that we can creatively express ourselves. And the more we enter into that energy, the more we can creating synchronicities and encounters, and the right people will appear in front of us, just like it did for me the last 6 months. I created this Soul Purpose School group about a year ago, August 8th, and I solidified the mission. And as I created different things, I dove deeper into the alignment. Yan joined out of nowhere from other group. Amber came out of nowhere through referral. Dagma came out of nowhere. It wasn't my plan, right? But because I had a vision and I knew what I wanted to create, and I made it clear what is it that I want to create and what is the lifestyle that I want to be living. And I knew that I have a power to create. By the way, everybody, the most important belief that we want to have is to believe that our belief is powerful. That's the most important belief. Then they just came. right? So we don't want to look for the outside and see what's out there. We go inside and decide what is it that I want to create and what kind of life I want to be living, and begin nurturing and exercising that idea in the mind, because your imagination is the gateway that the God can express through us. Nothing existed in the physical form before it was imagined. Yeah. We have the power to imagine. And if we can imagine creatively anything we want, it's because that was gifted. I like the analogy, sharing the analogy that, God created. By the way, I don't belong to any religion. Yeah. And when I used to not like using the term God. I now love using the term God. Uh, if you have any resistance around that terminology, I want you to just interpret however you want to: infinite intelligence, divine. If you're here, you probably believe something bigger than the physical realm. That's why you're here. But I understand that there's a comfortability depending on how you are perceiving different things. I love the term God right now. The God of my understanding, not the God out there, but God everywhere, all knowing within us. Spirit is ever present, all knowing. So there's nowhere that the spirit God is not. Then we can activate and access that through the mind. So God created creators, creatures, and creation. Creations are trees, skies, planets. Creatures are animals, insects. Humans are creators. So what that means is that we have an ability to create using our imagination to begin building whatever that is that we desire. School doesn't teach that. But this is how we're supposed to be thinking. Yeah. We're imagining and thinking all the time, whether we're aware of it or not, right? Manifestation is working all the time. I haven't done this in a long time, but I want to do this. This is the art of manifestation, right? This is the law of gravity and the law of cause and effect, and attraction is working all the time. We want to practice utilizing the mind to imagine the idea that excites us instead of energizing the idea that contract us. We are so powerful, everybody, because God created us as a creator. We can even create fear. You can even create survival. We can even create things that we don't want if we choose to entertain it. I'm pausing a little bit so everybody can process. You might be wondering, where's the topic of money? It will come little by little. So let's talk a little bit about lighting the shadow. Let me take a little survey. Who here believes that we're living in an abundant universe? Hands? Great. More hands. Who here believes that we create our own reality that we experience? Yeah. Great. There's a digital hands and the physical hands. Who here believes that you're here to do something very uniquely special? Great. If we combine all threes that we talked about, that's an abundant life. Yeah. Why, if we're living in an abundant life, why so many people are living in a survival mode? If we're living in an abundant universe and we have an infinite supply, why are so many people are living in a lack of money? Rusting looks like he wants to say something, but you can use the school post to comment. So, oh, it's just programming. It's just programming. Yeah, it is programming. Isn't it amazing if we can really educate each and every single person that the money situation in the outside, in the 3D physical circumstance, follows the inside feeling about money and themselves. And then if everybody can practice that, and because we're living in the, I'm going to talk more about the creative plane versus competitive plane on Wednesday, because there's an infinite supply and we're living in an abundant universe, you increasing the circulation of money has nothing to do with somebody else losing or experiencing luck. Everybody can increase the ability to experience freedom. This is something that Bob said, Bob Proctor. No, everybody wants to be wealthy, but nobody wants to have any financial concern, right? Why people are interested in having more money? Because when we have that, it gives us choices and freedom to be able to do whatever we want to do in a way that we want to do. There's no, what if it does not have to? There's no anything that we have to do, and we want to decide what is it the life that we want to create and how we want to be living. And then we exercise inside the energy of having an abundance because the outside is going to be a reflection of the inside. And then we understand the law of compensation, which is the need for what you do and the ability to do it and the difficulty of replacing you. I actually want to change that to, instead of need for what you do, the the ability to touch people and then influence people. Because I don't think song is something that people need, but people want and enjoy to be touched, right? So when we begin understanding all those stuff, we can circulate, and anybody and everybody can begin creating the life of abundance. What if everybody can do that, right? And then I think the key to create that kind of life is to begin understanding that the key is in the inside. Let me share one of my favorite. I may actually share this TED Talk in school. There's a fantastic TED Talk. The title of the TED Talk is "Consciousness is the Frontier," and it's done by a yogi. And he dropped out of the medical school because he freaked out with the blood, and then he thought that going through the medical path is not for him, and instead he became a yogi. And then he was sharing the story that he was looking for the key outside of the house because he couldn't enter the house. And then he was looking for a long time, and then the neighbor came to him and asked, "What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for the key." And then the neighbor started to help him looking for the key, and then couldn't find it. And the neighbor asked the guy, "Hey, where did you lose your key?" And then he said, "I lost my key inside of the house." And then he kept looking for the outside, and the neighbor asked, "Why are you looking for the key that you know that you lost inside in the outside?" And then he said, "Because it's dark inside." And he said, that's how most people are living life, looking for the key outside, because when they close their eyes and go inside, it's dark and they cannot see the key. So the key is to look inwards to be able to align your unique differentiation expression based on the life that you have gone through and begin entertaining the idea of the life that you want to be living and the lifestyle that you want to be creating and begin practicing working on that. What if that's all it takes to create an energetic flow? I'll share that TED Talk in the school group. One last thing that I wanna talk about, which is one of the most important things that I wanna anchor this week, before we finish day one. See, I'm used to do the 75 minutes, and 60 minutes goes by really, really fast. Which is one of the main messages that I have in the entire self-realization soulpreneur work. We do not change who we are, but we only need to change how we see ourselves. Yeah, it took me a long time for me to understand what this means. So internally, we have the subject I and object I. Yeah, I'm going to go a little slow. This is the end of this day one, but this is the most important part. If we really, really get this, everybody, our life can change very fast. If we continue to not to get this, our life will stay similar pattern because we're stuck in the loop of trying to change you. When the key is to not to change you. Yeah. So you have a subject you, I, right? The concept of I. The concept of I, the subject I, is the one that can choose to see. The concept of I, the object I, is the one that you have been thinking who you are. The one that you have been feeling who you have been. Yeah. So inevitably, we have this thing called autobiographical self, the memory self that we have been living. Yeah. Based on the interaction that we had in the past, the sense of confidence, not confidence, succeeding in something, failing in something, somebody telling you something, you interacting in the world and felt something, all those dynamic created the sense of self, how you feel you about you in this world. That is the object I. That is not the one that you need to change. The subject I is the one that you're choosing to see. So instead of trying to change what's not working, you begin creating the new I in your imagination and solidify with the action and creating an environment to back up that new I and then be surrounded by a space like this that encourage you to come back to that so you can begin building a new I, the concept of I, to become familiar with it. Because there's a subject I and an object I. And if the subject I, the one that is choosing to see, think that you need to release my trauma, I need to do my shadow work to change who I feel about me, now you're ending up choosing to see yourself. So the subject I gets absorbed by the object I. Then you're in the loop of seeing yourself as somebody who is not enough. And then you'll be creating that loop of not enoughness. But here's the thing. God created us as a creator. We have a free will. This is what Carl Jung said. You are not what happened to you. You are who you choose to become. Who you choose to become is who you're choosing to see yourself now, not later. We don't choose to see ourselves different later after we release all this shadow. We identify, recognize, so we are not being controlled by it, but we practice choosing to see ourselves as the light. And then I'm going to come back to this topic over and over throughout the day because this is a concept that sometimes puzzles people. And it requires a little reinforcement to solidify. We want to notice the one, if there's one thing that you could do to change the energetics of money is to understand that there's a subject I and an object I. When you share in the post, Shana, and when I said that it is the one that you're believing that needs to change, not the one that's being believed. This is exactly what I meant, right? So begin creating the new updated version of you. And the more you give energy to that, the object you that's not serving, the limiting belief that you thought that you had, the unworthiness that you thought that you had that you wanted to change will start dissipating because you're not giving energy to it. That's the spiritual way of creating a change. And why that is true? Because this life universe is self-organized and self-corrected. We don't need to try to change. Things that's not being energized will start dissipate and fade away on its own because life is movement in nature. So we give energy to the creation, not trying to solve something that we are choosing to see as a problem. There's no problem. That's just a path. You create the new you and you give full energy to it. So in order to begin creating a full energy to it, the invitation is to begin expressing your insights and wisdom and realization and aha moment as much as you're able to by posting and interacting. And believe me, if you go all in with expressing and moving energy, something is going to happen in your life. I don't know what's going to happen, but something is going to happen because the universe, God now knows that you're playing the role of giver and producer. And then God said, oh, if I give this more to this person is going to give more to the world. But if you're waiting to receive, you're in that resistance mode. And if God gives to you more, you're going to be in the reception mode more and not giving, then you're not creating that circulation of a flow of circulation. Yeah. Okay. I'm going over. So this is the realization post. This is great. I'm gonna go over one by one. And then if you go to session 1, you have 2 pimples. After you share the realization, is this today? Yeah, today. Here, it's turned off. I'm gonna turn on the comment. One of the questions from the workbook is here, selected. You can just share one of the questions. If you feel called to share all 3, you're welcome to. The workbook is here. Yeah. And then take your time to, if you're attending live, I recommend you to do this today. And if you're watching replay today, I will I recommend to do it today because it's gonna kind of stack a little bit. Amazing. Tomorrow we're gonna be come back to talk about permission to receive. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that I'm gonna be repeating from a different angle, so it sinks a little bit differently. And I want you to go with how you feel. Yeah. I don't want you to think too much about everything that I'm talking about. I want you to kind of go with how the energy in the group and what I'm sharing with everybody is creating a shift inside of you. And then dedicate this week to begin journaling. Yeah. The key is inside, even though it's dark, everybody. We're going to stop looking for the outside. And what that really means is that the answer, the key for you is not in what I'm going to share with you. Yeah. The key to begin flowing the money and expanding your consciousness is going to only be found and accessed inside of you. I do not know what that is. But through this container, this is an opportunity for you to actually begin finding the key that has already been inside. Amazing. Thank you, everybody. It's 1111 right now. It's a good time to stop here. Thank you for your presence and participation. I look forward to seeing everybody's posts in the group, and I'll see you tomorrow, same time at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Thank you.